Well, tell us about the Mankind Project.
Hi, Julia. So thank you for inviting me to participate. I'm grateful for that. And we had a conversation before, but let's jump back into it. The Mankind Project is a nonprofit training organization. We're about 27 years old. We are started in the United States, and we've grown up and grown out. We are now in 8 global regions, so including the United States, Canada, the UK, French-speaking Europe, German-speaking Europe. We have groups starting in Italy and Spain as well, in Europe.
Wow.
And the Netherlands. And then South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia. We have growing communities in Mexico and Costa Rica right now, so we're kind of been growing out all over the place, and we really do 3 things as an organization. So the Mankind Project runs training programs for men, leadership training, emotional intelligence training. We kind of do a rites of passage, hero's journey for men. We support a global network of men's groups, so there are about 750 men's groups in the United States, and close to, or maybe more than 1,000 men's groups now globally. Wow. And we support and encourage men to find and live missions of service in their lives. So to reach out, get what they can for themselves, learn who they are, learn about their own gifts and what they have to give to the world, and then go out and give those gifts to the world in a meaningful way.
And so that in that learning process is where you explore the hero's journey? Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. So we started out with, in 1984, 3 guys got together who were really watching what was happening with the women's movement at the time, and seeing all of these women that they knew and loved in their lives connecting and sharing with each other and pushing their boundaries and empowering each other and really, doing some deep heart work. And these 3 men, Bill Kauth and Rich Tosi and Ron Herring, who were all from very different backgrounds, got together and said, we want to create something for men that allows men to connect in this way, have community in this way, and do that heart work that they saw a lot of women doing. So, coming out of the Mad Men generation of men in suits drinking themselves to death, very disconnected from their kids, disconnected from themselves, disconnected from the world. They said, we want to do something different. We want something different for men. And they created something that at the time was called the Wild Man Weekend, now called the New Warrior Training Adventure. And the New Warrior Training is a 48-hour experience, very full immersion, experiential training that takes a man on a hero's journey, takes a man through this kind of archetypal journey from separation from his normal life through a series of processes, through an ordeal, and then into an integration back into a community, back into a clearer sense of himself.
It sounds really interesting. What are some of the things that men have said about the weekend?
The guys say all kinds of things. So the way the process was designed, it's packed. I mean, it's really densely packed weekend. It's 48 hours. And fairly intense process to process to process. So there's individual stuff that men do, there are group processes, there are team processes, most of it occurs indoors, there's some outdoor stuff as well. It's not like an outdoor adventure kind of, it's not like a wilderness adventure kind of weekend. We leave that to experts who do that kind of stuff. But men get really different things out of the weekend based on where they are in their own lives. Different processes on the weekend will resonate for them in different ways. So, I was for me, I was a kind of very soft-spoken, easy, I'm a nice guy. I was a Mr. Nice Guy. And I still am a nice guy. And part of what I got out of the weekend was a sense of learning how to stand up for myself in healthy ways, learning how to, with men and with women in my life, be able to declare, okay, this is what I want, and be able to own that in myself. So for me, that was a huge awakening, to be able to step into my relationship with my wife and say, this is who I am, and here's what I want, and let's work together to make this happen. That was vastly different than, where I had been. For other men, they have no problem doing that kind of thing. They may have gone overboard. They may have gone completely overboard in terms of being dominating or overbearing with people in their lives. And the training for them might be about learning to step back from that and actually open into a more heart-centered space to be more of the nice guy. So, I say on our website, there's a line about, we basically blow out of the water any traditional stereotypes about the macho man or the new age wimp. So, if you are the macho man, you're going to come to the weekend and you'll probably learn something about how soft your heart is. And if you're the new age, sensitive new age guy, the Mr. Nice Guy that I was, I learned something about my own power as a man and how to step into that more fully.
That's common for women, trying to be nice and not owning their power. So I can see where if you're trying to be a nice person, a good person, a nice person, you lose, sometimes it puts you in a position where you have to really think about, am I being assertive or am I being aggressive?
That's a great distinction. And yeah, assertive versus aggressive. Am I in power with, or am I overpowering someone? Yeah, and that's, for men, we get messages, a lot of what we do is to kind of combat messages that are out in the culture about what it's okay for a man to be. We have to stay inside the man box. We have to, keep the armor up. We have to not show our emotions. We have to not connect. We have to be competitive with other men. These stereotypes are breaking down in the culture a lot. I mean, the last 30 years have seen a lot of these stereotypes are really on shifting sands now. They're starting to go away.
Thank God.
But it's about, thank God, yes, I agree. And let's also not throw the baby out with the bathwater. So, some men get turned off by this idea of the new warrior training adventure. Like, we've had too many warriors, there's too much war. It's a reference to violence, it's whatever it is. But when I look at men and women who I regard as setting a standard for compassion, for empathy, for action in the world, you look at Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa was a warrior. Mother Teresa she knew what she believed in. She had conviction, deep heart conviction, and the presence of being to go out and make something happen in the world. And that's kind of archetypally, that's the warrior. That's that fierce presence that says, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to be in the world. So Gandhi, a nonviolent activist. Martin Luther King, nonviolent activists. These men were powerful warriors, but not in the old soldier way of being warriors, in a nonviolent way. And the new warrior, that's what it's about. It's about looking in my heart, battling the demons, as Gandhi said, battling the demons that matter, the demons that are in here. And that's where the battle is to be fought these days. That we can create together what we need, we can evolve, men and women working together.
And it's really a lot about integrating both your masculine and feminine sides, which we all have.
For sure. For sure, yeah. So the archetypal idea that we use in MKP and talk about a lot kind of comes out of Jungian psychology and up through the generations to men like Robert Moore, who wrote a book called King, Lover, Warrior, Magician, which is pretty popular. It talks about archetypes, the Jungian archetypes. And all of the archetypes are both masculine and feminine, both anima and animus, both yin and yang, receptive and proactive. And for me, being able to integrate and then draw distinctions about what's appropriate. Like, is now the time for me to be out there pushing into the world, or is it the time for me to step back and be open and receptive, something which used to be classed as feminine, like that was a feminine characteristic, but today it's like, is it effective? Like, what's the most effective way to be?
It's a human characteristic, and the culture forced people into saying, well, you're a woman, so you have to be this way, and push down all those other things, or you're a man, so you have to be this way, and push down all this receptive stuff, and that made us less human. Really.
Absolutely.
Well, it sounds like a very interesting, and you have the mankind. Now, how is this structure split up? You have the Mankind Project, the overall project, and then the Warrior Weekend is
one of our programs. So let me talk more about that. So the Mankind Project is kind of the umbrella organization. It's the nonprofit.
Okay.
It's almost 100% volunteer. So we have a very small staff, and then we have local communities in which there are volunteer kind of councils, volunteer boards who help run things, put together trainings, and do all that stuff. So that's what the Mankind Project does. The New Warrior Training Adventure is one of our programs. So that is our flagship training. And then we also have a series of other leadership trainings and multicultural trainings and personal leadership trainings that a man can engage with, and women as well, can engage with after that initial experience of the New Warrior training. So that's kind of our first thing. We do training programs for men. Our second thing is we support a global network of men's groups. So after a weekend, after this New Warrior Training Adventure, a man can choose to stay connected to the community and join a men's group where he can kind of continue, for me, so once I figured out, okay, I don't have to be a nice guy all the time, then I needed a place to experiment about, okay, what works and what doesn't work in terms of, like, I don't want to go to swing the pendulum too far the other way.
Right.
So having a men's group has been a place for me over the last 8 years to say, okay, what's my goal now? Like, what's the next thing that I want to look at in my life? What's the next accomplishment that I do? What's the next level of success that I want to get to? And I've got support to help me do that. And men who have my back, emotionally, spiritually, physically, about what I'm doing in my life, so that I can be more the man that I discovered and more the man that I want to be in the world. And that's,
tell me how the women participate. You said something about women participate.
So Mankind Project runs, we do multicultural work. So we do shorter workshops looking at specifically things like heterosexism, sexism in general, racism, classism, ageism. And then we've decided as an organization that being aware of for me, being aware of my privilege, being aware of all the different ways that I was kind of born into a situation that I didn't choose that gave me a lot of privileges in the culture, So I've done work on that. I've looked at that over the last several years about where are my blind spots? Where are my blind spots with women? Where are my blind spots with people of color? Where are my blind spots with gay men that I didn't perhaps want to look at? And a lot of the multicultural work that we do is integrated, as men and women are invited to do that work. There are groups, a growing number of groups in the country also, like our men's groups, that are integrated, that are co-ed.
Okay.
They may be couples groups. They may just be open groups for men and women to get together. So that's what in the Mankind Project. There is also a parallel, a sister organization to the Mankind Project called Woman Within. Woman Within was created by women, for women, about women. In the late 80s, one of the founders of MKP, his wife, Char Tosi, said, let's create a women's weekend. Let's create, I want to have something like this that I can invite my girlfriends to. And so they created the Woman Within training and organization. It's smaller than the Mankind Project, but growing. And in a similar vein, they operate women's circles, and they put on a training for women called the Woman Within Weekend.
The what?
Is that right? It may have its own name.
Okay.
That training may have a better name than that. But it's similar and different. So where the New Warrior training adventure is pretty cutting edge, is pretty hardcore, pretty challenging. We separate men from a lot of the things that they use to distract themselves. Food, like we're gonna feed you all weekend, but you're not gonna be eating steak dinners all weekend. You're not gonna be able to
go to the refrigerator
on the couch. Yeah. The women's work is much more nurturing, is much more about looking at the ways in which women sacrifice their own self-worth and sacrifice their own value in relationship to other women, to their children, to the men in their lives, and reclaiming that self-nurturing. And so it's similar process, a weekend process, but they're kind of have different flavors, masculine and feminine flavors.
Cool. I'd like to interview someone from that group too.
I can make that happen.
Okay.
Sure.
Anything else you'd like to tell us about, the website address or anything?
Yeah, of course. So the mankindproject.org or mkp.org is the organizational website for the global organization. You can also visit mkpusa.org, which is just for the United States. And then a great way for someone who has never heard of us, doesn't know anything about us, to connect is on Facebook. So facebook.com/The Mankind Project.
Okay.
You'll find us on Facebook. We've got a lot of fans and a very active Facebook page, lots of inspirational kind of stuff. We go all over the place and find as much inspirational information that we can share with people, and that's a great way to connect to us.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.